for the next one. So please.
So next we will move from Florida to California. Our next keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Gerard Hanley. So please allow us to take this time to introduce him a bit. Professor Gerard Hanley is the Executive Director of MERLOT, shortened for Multimedia Educational Resource for Learning and Online Teaching, and SkillsCommons, which are free and open digital library of academic and workforce development, teaching, learning, and training resource administered at California State University, Long Beach.
Well,
Jerry,
previous positions included Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Technology Services at the CSU Office of the Chancellor, that was during 2000 to 2019, where he created the Affordable Learning Solution Programs. And well, ladies and gentlemen, again, if I read his full profile, it would take me maybe half a year. So without delay, and you can see I am a very big fan of him. This is his shirt. I got it from him as a gift. So I wear his shirt right now. So let's hear from our Santa Claus of Education, Professor Gerard Hanley.
Welcome to him.
Oh, we need to unmute his mic. One moment, please, Professor. One moment, sir. Co-host, could you please allow his mic on, please?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Okay, now we can hear you. So the stage is yours. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in your International e-learning conference again. It's just a joy to be here, and I'll begin with just reinforcing everything that Dr. Denner has just said about people first, content and tools, and actually what I'm going to talk about today are really probably ways that you can implement the network knowledge activities that she talked about. And I'm going to begin with this point around that's really setting up the whole conference here, is that the COVID pandemic has changed the lives of billions of people. And if we're going to look at how do we respond to this massive change, education, and I think, Michael, this is the point you're making around people are using technology for social things, but education that can be the most powerful social and economic change agent. And when people have lost their jobs because of COVID and they have to move to different things, education can help us respond to the consequences of COVID. And I think the way we're going to have to respond is that we all, some way or another, are going to have to become educators. We all know things. We all have expertise. We all need to reach out and connect with other people. And we all have to learn from one another. We all have to be educated too as well. Now, how do we enable that to occur? That seems so overwhelming, so complicated. So what I'm going to begin with, let's begin with something that we know how to do really well and use that as a metaphor of how we can literally change the world by thinking about education as cooking. And I'll begin with, without the chef in the middle, cooking doesn't happen, right? So people first, right? Now, when you think about cooking, you got to have ingredients. And so in this diagram, we have all the building blocks for creating that meal. And when we look at education, if we're going to enable open learning for everyone, then we can think about open educational resources those are online learning and teaching materials that are free and available for someone to use. That's like the ingredients when we're cooking. OER, open educational resources. But then we need recipes. And where are recipes, right? Recipes are in the mindset of people. It's their know-how, and it's how they execute their cooking, right? It's the instructions of what to do with the ingredients. And those, when we're thinking about education, if we're going to enable everyone to teach and learn, then those recipes are our open educational practices. How do we teach in various ways? And some of those practices, just talking about the network knowledge activities, how do we collect? How do we curate? How do we share? How do we broker? How do we negotiate? And how do we construct all these things? These are practices of how to do things. Now, once I have the recipes and the ingredients, then I need the kitchen. I need the equipment and the utensils, right? I need the kitchen, I need the stove and the mixing bowl. And that's the open educational services. Those are the technologies that we enable people to mix their recipes and create their meals, right? And that's what I just want to use that metaphor as we go through. How then do we transform education so education is open for everyone to learn with open educational resources, right? When we have internet access, open educational resources, these are all the e-textbooks, tutorials, presentations, animations, all these other things that are out there that many of you are creating and have used. Then the practices, the know-how to teach and learn. And one of the things, these are about the faculty's stories of what they did to bring things together and their pedagogy in various ways. And then open educational services, right? And these are the tools and the technology that empower people to use open educational resources and open educational practices. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is gotta say, okay, if we're in the kitchen, the first thing we gotta do is find the ingredients. And I've fortunately have been presenting at the IEC for many years, and I've often talked about MERLOT, so I'm going to just do a little highlight of that. So MERLOT is a library that has a lot of different materials, and I'll show you a little bit about it. But some new things that we have is we also search 75 other open libraries. So when you go to MERLOT, and I'll show you this in a second, it's not only what we have in our almost 100,000 materials, but literally millions of other open educational resources that we make it easy for you to do. As Dr. Dennis said, content is important, but if we don't make it easy for people to find, then you then put that barrier in front of them. And what I'm going to emphasize, show you today, that in fact, you can get all the Thai MOOCs now out of MERLOT as well. Now, what's really important with any library is the filtering to let you narrow down to just the stuff that you need. And that's in part the curation that Dr. Dennis talked about, right? Now, what it also does, it lets you share your opinions about, is this stuff any good, right? So that's really what quality assurance indicators do. And MERLOT, you can use Google Translator and get it into everything we have in over 70 languages. So one of the things about finding the ingredients for cooking up educational transformation, MERLOT can help you do what you want fast. And so for those who are not familiar, this is the website, merlot.org. And you can see there's 95,000 materials. And if I typed in the word, DNA, I'm doing something in biology, right? What first comes up is the MERLOT collection. And there are all these different materials in here, and it gives descriptions, and you can see the little stars. So there's been curation already going on because MERLOT is a community of almost 200,000 people who are creating the collection and reviewing the collection and giving you their ideas about how to best use these things. And I've shown this a lot before, but again, I would say what MERLOT in Dr. Denham's network knowledge activities, it helps you collect material, and it helps you curate material, and it helps you share material. Now, MERLOT is not the only thing out there. There are 75 other libraries out there. And on the left-hand side, I just show you a little snapshot of some of them that are here. And what I did recently was we also added all the Thai MOOCs into this collection. So you can search in MERLOT, you can find things in lots of different libraries, and then you say, hey, what's in Thai MOOCs? And you click on that. And then what we'll show you is here are all the materials. In this case, I put the word education into MERLOT, and now it shows you all the Thai MOOCs about education, and you can click on one of these, and bingo, here is that Thai MOOC about information technology for education. So what we try to do is to make sure that we can fill your desktop with the ingredients for any materials to help you teach, because without ingredients, it's really hard to deliver a good education. Without the content, it's really hard to deliver that education. Now, it's just not other libraries we help you find. MERLOT has also created a special Google search to find educationally related content. And so you can just click on the web when you do a MERLOT search, and then you can filter it by the specific Creative Commons license that you like. So this is a process of how do I collect? How do I curate? How do I share? And enable people to do these things. Now, one of the questions that was brought up around how do you connect open education resources, and I'll say academic and workforce development or industry-centric things. And this is where the MERLOT and SkillsCommons team, what we've done is we actually created a separate library for workforce development, and we've leveraged almost a $2 billion investment from the US Department of Labor to create this library of over 60,000 open educational resources in manufacturing, healthcare, IT, energy, facilities and business operations, agriculture, because all these things are free and available for you to use. And over 500 open courseware that you can download, reuse, revise, remix, redistribute, retain into MOOCs if you'd like, right? So the issue around how do you support workforce development skills? SkillsCommons is, think of that your kitchen pantry for the ingredients for workforce development. And so this is skillscommons.org. Again, just want to show you this tool. If you're going to doing some collecting and curating, this is the tool to use it for workforce development. And what I'm showing you here is just a visualization of what's all in there. So like the blue is all manufacturing, the red is healthcare, and you roll your cursor over and you get exactly what you're looking for. What's the specific content area? How can I select or curate just what I want? And I might find something, and for example, there are complete courseware in SkillsCommons that if you find it, you just click on that and it'll download those materials to your computer. So what I'm showing you here and emphasizing is that here are all the ingredients from academic content as well as workforce development that you now have access to for free. So you can start cooking, but Now the question is, how am I cooking this stuff? So OER content without practices is like ingredients without recipes. So where do you find the recipes for how do I teach with all this open education resources? The big question, how do I move online? How do I help my students move online? How do I redesign my teaching to become more engaging? So these are, again, think of these as the recipes and the open educational practices. MERLOT has a place for you to collect, curate, and share practices, not just the content, but now we're the recipes, and we have things related to how do I move online? What's the recipe for those? How about redesigning my course with more technology or using OER? Or how do I turn career and technical education from hands-on to online? Or using virtual labs instead of doing wet labs? How do I use technology to create a simulated experience? And how do I do quality assurance? So all these here, MERLOT's Open Educational Practices Portal, what we've collected here are e-portfolios. These are, and I'll show you some examples of these in just in a second, but think of these as faculty's recipes on how to teach. So you can go to the cupboard, the MERLOT and SkillsCommons cupboard, and get some of your ingredients or your open educational resources. And then you can go to the open educational practices and think of that as your recipe book to see what have other people done and see if you would like to follow those recipes. And now I'll just give examples here of teaching with open education resources. These are some of the examples as, well, maybe I'm teaching around, the issues about child development or biology or history or economics. All these are stories by faculty members and what they've created in a systemic way to say, here's the open text I use, here's the course I teach, and here's how I adopted it. And so these are the recipes for teaching with open education resources. So you have your recipes for using OER. Another whole collection of recipes are about how do I move online? What are the guidelines to help me be successful when I'm teaching? But the other set of areas is how do my students also learn? What advice can I give them? What are the tutorials that I can help them become better at time management, become better at preparing to work online? And so what we've created here again is an open educational portal that brings all these recipes for preparing teachers and students for online learning. Another area is about how do we really change the way we teach? Since I can't lecture in the classroom, how do I flip the classroom where now I have the students engaging in more reading and preparation outside of classroom online? And then here's an example of the way someone has said, so here's Ji-song, who now teaches statistics. And she said, here's how I've redesigned the course, right? And think about a good recipe book. It shows you pictures of what it looks like. And what these e-portfolios also include is what's the evidence about how this change has made the difference. So think of it, the recipe shows you what to do, and the e-portfolios say, here's the outcome. So this is what I do when I cook this meal. This is the outcome of my students' learning. The Open Educational Portal, Practices Portal also has stuff around workforce development, such as how do I align what I'm teaching in my program to what the industry sector needs so my students get hired? Or how do I support them as they are navigating their careers? How do they do apprenticeship? We have a lot of stories too about how to do these things. And the final aspect that I'm going to get to here, we've talked about open educational resources, your ingredients, open educational practices, your recipes. And now I need a kitchen to cook. So what we're going to talk about now is when we have open education resources, they often talk about how do I reuse, revise, remix, redistribute, retain, the 5 R's. And I have ingredients and practices, but now I need open educational services. Resources, practices, services, ingredients, recipes, and the kitchen. And now I'm going to show you just give you 3 examples here about what are the services, the technologies and tools that MERLOT has that allows you to really do some good cooking. So the first part, if you just want to reuse, redistribute, retain, right? When you want to using the network knowledge activities, if you want to go collect and curate and share, MERLOT and SkillsCommons really make it easy for you because you can go there, download it, copy and paste links, put it in your syllabus, put it into your learning management system. You can reuse, redistribute, and retain open educational resources very easily. And the metaphor I have is that just reuse, redistribute, retain, that's like going to take out food from a restaurant or takeaway food, right? You go someplace, they prepare it for you, and you bring it home and you eat it. So MERLOT and SkillsCommons can take out food for education pretty easy. Now, remixing is when you say, you know what? I like a little bit of this and I like a little bit of that because I have a unique course I'm trying to teach. So I want to look at combining and reorganizing and streamlining. So what you need, right, is think of this as a mixing bowl to help combine other people's ingredients to kind of create something that's a little new that you would post on Instagram, right? So think about that's the remixing is an easy part of doing that. And revising the 5th R is really when you make substantial changes in the content to really create a new derivative material. So now I'm going to give you examples about how you can do this. Obviously, with reuse, redistribute, and retain, that's the easy stuff. You can go take out food from MERLOT and SkillsCommons. Now, when you want to remix and revise, we have a lot of these strategies described in the Open Educational Practices portal, where it says revise and remix. And now I'm going to give you an example. You remember I showed you an OER portal about preparing teachers and students to learn online, a free collection of know-how. Well, MERLOT has a tool. It's free for anyone who becomes a MERLOT member, which is free to do. It's an authoring tool. So you can think of it like a mixing bowl that lets you combine text and images and videos and links to create your new material and provide you this free and open service. Everyone, everywhere can create their own open education resources by remixing OER for your particular needs. And I'll give you some examples. That same website that we created, that template, over 25 other institutions have created their version by remixing and revising, remixing a little stuff to then make it their own, where they get to reuse some of it, but make it their own. And just so you know, Thai Cyber University, we've remixed it for you too as well. And just so you know, because we have the Google Translate, you can turn that into Thai for you to use right now. So it's, again, remixing what's already there. Simple and easy for you to do for yourself. So MERLOT provides that open educational services. Now, revising is a little bit more substantial. And this is where commercial technologies are educational kitchens, that they can help you combine the text, images, videos. But what's really important when you're really revising it is you're really combining learning assessments into the process, and you're enabling open pedagogy. I think what Dr. Denner had talked about is opening pedagogy that enables the students to do the collecting, the combining, the curating, the sharing, and the constructing. Well, MERLOT tools can help students do this too, because they are learners as well. Now, what I'm going to show you here, I'm going to highlight just a few things. One, we have all these about revising on the website in the Open Education Practices portal. And I'll show you examples of how you might use SoftChalk or EcoText or Guru or Odigia. These are all commercial platforms that allow you to remix and revise OER. And there's an open source community called H5P that also helps you really bring in learning assessments into open education resources. And I'll give you just an example of how you do this makeover to really revise it. So here's a course that's in SkillsCommons that I showed you before. And if you download it, it's like, oh, it's a zip file, and I got all these individual things. You go, oh man, this is difficult. If you gave this to your students, they get lost. How do you make it easy? I need to revise this. And so with SoftChalk, you can take all those files and open them up into a platform. So now they're not opening a document. The document is already presented. And then you can integrate multiple documents in a sequence, and you can embed directly video so they can learn things without going off online and getting lost. And you can build in assessments right into the SoftChalk platform. So that's just one example. Another one, EcoText. This takes an open textbook and then allows you to customize it and allows the students to add materials into it and integrate it into a shared document that becomes dynamic. So just want you to emphasize that open educational services are the technologies that can really enable you to customize things. So in conclusion, what I want to emphasize, the message here is the COVID pandemic requires us to transform education so that literally billions of people can not only learn to live in this changing ecosystem, but have more opportunities to thrive, that you empower them at every stage of their life to be able to learn the skills that they need, and that opening learning for all can be achieved by open education resources, open education practices, open education services. But without you as the chef, it doesn't happen. So people, the chef, is so important in making all this work. And this is an invitation to action, is really think about cooking education, your ingredients, your recipes, and your kitchen, your resources, your practices, and your services, and have people share their knowledge and cook up educational solutions. And MERLOT is a tool, is a set of tools and SkillsCommons that really can empower you to share those. And we've been working with Thai Cyber University for many years, and we look forward to continuing to do that in the future. And here's the last slide. These are just the URLs. for you on a lot of those materials that I presented. And again, this will be shareable for you. And thank you, Jin and Michael, for allowing me to present today.
Wow. I think everybody agree with me to why I have become his biggest fan in Thailand. I claim that. Thank you so much. Each year you come here, you give us new insight and new tools, new ways of thinking on how to utilize OER to improve our quality of teaching process. That means a lot, because with your help, we could utilize a lot of free stuff, even the whole free course, revise, remix, and redistribute to teach our students. Imagine millions of Thai students could benefit from your service, and everything is free. So that would be the best ever thing that happened to the world of education. So thank you, Professor Jerry.
You're most welcome. And I think it's so important to realize all these are open to you as a faculty, as a student, as a staff, as a parent, as a worker, as a grandma or grandpa or parent, that you can become that teacher and help everyone and learn and improve.
Yeah, and Professor Jerry, what you share with us is so inspiring, and I think this is to confirm the idea of our second keynote about like people first. But after we have people, we have to empowering them, empowering us. So with like all the secret recipes you share with us, including like the hot and spicy Thai MOOC. So we make the open education really happen. So this is very impressive and fruitful talk you share with us tonight at your science, for us today.
You're very welcome, and I think we all know how to cook, and I'll tell you, especially the Thai community and all your different regions have your unique recipes. And I think that's what you also want to share, because every institution has, you as a person have unique ways to enable students to learn. And so share your practices. Again, I just want to, Professor Dennin's point around people to collect, curate, share, broker, and construct, author those things. MERLOT and SkillsCommons can help you implement that network knowledge activities.
Okay, and actually we are running out of time, but we do have some questions for you on Padlet. Quickly, I summarize the questions. Well, they really love your talk, and they really see the point of combining your services. For example, MERLOT to OEP to OES, to see the outcome, not only using the content without practice. So one person say, practice makes perfect. So thank you for the OEP. Another person asks, in your opinion, how can Thai educational community foster the utilization of OER? Any quick thought on that, sir, please?
Well, I'd say whenever you have to do something new, if you are invited by a friend, you'll tend to do it, right? Think about all the times you've done something crazy or different, right? It was always a friend who said, hey, Michael, why don't you try this out, right? Or I go there and you say, hey, Jerry, why don't you try this out? A friend helps you do something new. And I think, how do you expand the number of people using open education resources? If you use it and then you say to a friend, hey, why don't you try this? I think that's how the change can occur, through people to people.
True. So true. Yeah.
Actually, so many more questions, but I think you are self-explanatory, because at the end, before the ending slide, you put a summary, and we will share that with all the participants. So thank you so much, Jerry. I know this is quite late. Your time, what time is it now?
It's not too bad. It's 9 o'clock at night.
Okay, but we appreciate your kindness as always, and thank you for spending time with us. Even more, thank you for matching all the tie and the background color.
Yep.
Blended. You are master chef. Thank you so much, and please take care. And we hope to see you in person again in Thailand very soon.
Okay, sounds
Have a
good.
good night, Professor. Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Good night.
ขอบคุณครับ
Uh,
ขอบคุณครับ